children right on up to large corporations. They all donated money, and they managed to get enough money together to buy the ship. They brought that ship up the river in 1961, put it in its present berth, and set it up as a war memorial. Now, they were a bit concerned about bringing the North Carolina up the river because she was drawing the depth of the river. They brought it in on a full moon high tide and had every tug in Wilmington either tied alongside the vessel or standing by. As they were pushing it up into the berth, they missed the peak of the tide. The ship grounded, got wedged sideways in the river, and had to sit there through the night and one tide before it could complete its journey on into the berth. Now, if you were traveling into Wilmington from the west before 1929, you'd have to come down to the bank of our river and catch a ferry into Wilmington because there were no bridges. Now, one of the ferry landings was on the right-hand bank, right here at the end of Battleship Road, where you see the green channel buoy. The ferry landed in Wilmington on the left-hand bank, at the foot of Market Street, where that flagpole is located. Now, the first ferry into Wilmington was a small barge that was just big enough for one horse and buggy. It was guided back and forth across the river by a cable and propelled by an oarsman. They did later add a gasoline-powered launch to the barge to help pull it back and forth across the river, and that was soon replaced by two gasoline-powered ferries that were built especially for running back and forth across the river. And those two ferries did run up until 1929, when the first bridge was constructed into Wilmington. However, on our left-hand side, right where we left the dock from, right there where our floating docks are at, laying in that area, down on the bottom of the river, are the remains of an old riverboat, the A.P. Hurt. The A.P. Hurt was one of the first stern-wheelers to run on the Cape Fear. Came in from a run one evening, and the boiler was low on water, so the engineer turned on the hose and put it in the boiler to fill it back up. He went on about some of his other chores, and when he got finished, he went home and went to sleep. But he forgot to turn the hose off before he left, so while he slept, the Hurt sat there at the dock, filled up with water and sank. Now, the Hurt does still lie there on the bottom of the river today. All that remains of it is the iron hull and paddle wheel. Now, this tan front building over on our left, it has the maroon awnings over the windows. That's part of the Chandler's Wharf complex. It is an old warehouse that has been converted into shopping. Now, these two waterfront buildings in Chandler's Wharf, they are both restaurants. The one to the left, as you're facing them, is the lodges. The one to the right, with the white railings around it, is the Pilot House. Just past the Pilot House restaurant, you'll see some waterfront condominiums that have some boat slips out in front. Now, that condominium complex is called Governor's Landing. It's called Governor because it's built on the bank right in front of the Governor Dudley Mansion. If you look up this street that runs right next to the condos, you'll see the mansion sitting up on top of the hill. Sits right there on the corner. It is surrounded by a stone wall. That mansion was built there by Governor Dudley. Governor Dudley was the first governor of North Carolina who was elected by the people's popular vote. At the top of this grassy hill over on our left, you'll see a white home that has a barn-shaped roof. That is the old Cassidy home. Mr. Cassidy lived in that home and also operated a shipyard along the bank of the river, right in front of the home prior to and during the Civil War. There was another shipyard directly across the river from Cassidy's called Berry's Shipyard. Now, both shipyards were vital to the South during the Civil War, and they both built ironclads. It was rumored at one point that one of the yards had a wooden submarine under construction, but no one will ever know for sure because when the fall of Wilmington was inevitable, those shipyard owners came down, burned the shipyards as well as the ships in them to keep them from falling into enemy hands. Now, this other nice restored home over on our left, it was originally built in 1790, and it was built across the street with that high-rise